And I couldn't run at that time. I was still crawling. I was actually on my knees. As far as here, I was on my knees. And my mother said, now, you've got to go. You've got to stand, and you've got to run. You see, and I did. I ran in front of him, and then he pointed that way. So I lived. So you're a doctor, you know what happens during typhus, but you are mentally deranged. This is part of the symptom of typhus. I was mentally deranged for about 3 months, I think. And one of the symptoms was that everybody had hallucinations and imagined that at the bottom of your bed were all these fantastic fruits and juices, and nobody wants to give it to you. And I used to scream, apparently, and my mother had to strap me to make sure that I stay on this bank. And one day there was a selection. Actually, Mengele came in, and there was a selection within the hut.
Yes.
And my mother took me, put me underneath a straw mattress, and put another body on top of me. I was unconscious at that time.
So she saved your life?
And she saved my life, because everybody that was lying on the bank, on the bunk, was taken to be gassed. Everybody. And if I hadn't been underneath, well, I would not have survived. I began to recover from typhus, but my health just didn't pick up, and I was completely deaf. And a prisoner doctor decided that the only way to get over this deafness was to pierce my ears. But of course there were no instruments, so there were 2 knitting needles, and they pierced my ears with knitting needles. I remember you telling me that. That's right. Yes. Now then, I was ready to be thrown out, you see, and I would have had to go back onto external work. And it was, again, buying your way into some sort of position, and eventually I managed to buy my way into stay and work
in the infectious disease block.
In the dysentery block, I think I worked, which I think was the next block, the dysentery block, and after that was the TB block. Yeah. Now I stayed and worked here. I worked as a pucerka, which was this sort of an orderly carrying out bodies, and that was very, very difficult because bodies were on the top bunk, threw it down, pulled it all along here, and then the lorries, and then all the bodies were just sort of heaped up, you see. You got quite accustomed to bodies just lying heaped up, and then we had to load the bodies. 2 people loaded the bodies. Just give me your hands and I'll show you. You should do like this. Yes. 2, 1,
and then throw.
3, throw. Yeah. That's it, and the bodies were loaded on, right? Now, I stayed on like this for some time, and lots and lots of my friends came in, and I nursed one of my cousins. On my father's side came in, and I nursed this cousin, and she died. Yes, I remember my grandmother telling me that. And 1 or 2 aunts of mine that died here on this block and on that block. And then I had 2 friends that we saved from a selection from prison, two girls, 2 sisters, and they had survived already 8 months, you see. And one day Mengele came in and he said, the whole block's going to be emptied. Everybody out. So all the staff, I was staff by then, we had to ring this area. I think there was this block over there. We all stood around here. We were standing around. They brought all the people out, and we were standing holding hands, you say, like this, so that they couldn't escape. And all the sick, even the convalescents, they were well. They were already well.
But why did he want to clear the block?
He wanted to clear the block because there were lots of new sick ones coming in. So he cleared the whole block, and everybody had to be loaded on, and I had to load my friends on. And that finished me. That really finished me mentally, I think. That finished me, I'm sure it did. But it was my mother that stopped me going on the fence that day. Everybody went. Everybody.
You mean you wanted to commit suicide that day?
Well, I just didn't want to live. You see, all my friends were on this block, and they were well. And they'd been here a year, 12 months. And then I had to load them up, you see. And I wanted to go with them. But of course, they'd stopped me. You see, my mother came out and she just grabbed me and stopped me.
It's really yet another occasion when she saved your life.
Oh, yes. During that period, she saved my life, yes. Oh, we could not have survived without each other. There's no doubt about that. You couldn't have lived on your own. You had to have somebody to help for you to survive, and you had to help somebody else. I don't know about the men. I couldn't tell you how the men managed to survive. But conditions in the women's camp were 1,000 times worse than conditions in the men. Because of the overcrowding. I don't know. I think they were afraid to have too many men.